Do you think personal knowledge database and second brain are something that some nerd made up just to feel cool? Do you have zero interest in cataloging your life and taking notes about taking notes? If so, then this is the video for you. Stay tuned while this nerd tries to convince you this nerd stuff is cool. He paid me to say something different, but I just couldn't do it with a straight face. Anyway, here he is.
I'll be the first person to admit that it can be easy to get lost in the details of what a tool can do and ignore why you would want to use the tool in the first place. And you might have noticed I've made a bunch of videos about a tool called Obsidian, and I explain how to use it, but also I've skipped a big step, which is why you would even want to use it in the first place, which is why I wanted to make this video. So I want to show you 5 reasons why you might consider using something like Obsidian, even if you don't use Obsidian specifically. And I do want to outline one big reason why you would want to avoid it completely. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome. I am Jonathan Pritchard from icanreadminds.com. And I'm fascinated by how the human mind works. Now, our minds are fantastic at recognizing things, at judging them, at evaluating things. And you know what it's really not good at? Recalling things, memory. Every time that we remember something, it is colored by the situation that we're in while we're remembering that detail. A perfect example is maybe your favorite quote from your favorite movie. You've said it for years, you watch the movie again for the first time in a long time, and the actor says the line wrong in the movie. And it's not that the actor got it wrong, it's that you've misremembered it for so long. Over time, it is slowly warped and changed, and you didn't know any better because you feel certain that you remembered it correctly, but that certainty has nothing to do with accuracy. This is also coincidentally why eyewitness testimony is the least reliable form of evidence in a court of law. So our minds are great at some things and not great at other things. And it's because of that a personal knowledge database makes sense. Now, I will be the first to admit that is probably the worst PR move ever. The marketing department dropped the ball on that personal knowledge database. Who cares about that? It doesn't sound cool at all because, well, it isn't. So what is a personal knowledge database? Basically, what it is a way for you to keep track of anything and everything that you want to remember later or keep track of for any kind of reason or purpose. And the idea is that you let the computer do computer things so that your human brain can do human brain things. So the human computer, anyway, strike that. So the computer will be able to remember things perfectly and instantly find them when you want them found, rather than you trying to remember it yourself. So there are a lot of reasons why this is a good idea, and these are the 5 details and reasons why you might consider having a robot assistant, or that's why it's called a second brain. You let your first human brain do the human brain stuff, and this is the second brain. And because I like calling it something different, I call it an exocortex, which just sounds more punk rock, a little more cyberpunk, and that's just what I call it. So exocortex, second brain, personal knowledge database, PKD, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. So let's get into why you might want one for yourself. The first reason is organization. Now stay with me because my office is an absolute wreck. I'm not going to show you what it is because nobody but my wife should ever see it. And my wife doesn't look at it because it gives her anxiety because of how not organized it is. But it actually is. I know where to find things. I kind of subscribe to the philosophy of Einstein. If you check out his office, mine looks like that, but even more genius if messy equals genius. So there's to me, a misconception that having nothing anywhere equals organized and effective. To me, if I can't see it, I can't remember that it's there. So there's a big difference between having having everything put away and out of sight and then being able to do something with what you have. So when I say that the personal knowledge database helps you organize everything, that doesn't mean that it has to all have a bazillion folders and you have to be overly obsessive about how all these systems work. The cool part about a personal knowledge database is the personal part. It lets you keep track of stuff however you want. And the way that I do it is how a lot of people might use Google Drive, where you put everything there and then you can tag it with a whole bunch of different information and resources or ways of remembering things. You don't have to be obsessive about it goes in this folder, in this subfolder, in this subfolder, in that subfolder. It just can go all in one place. Then you search for the right word or the right association or the right date. Oh, I think it was on a Friday. So let me search any note that has Friday in it. And then you can find the information the way that you want to find it. And that's a detail that a lot of operating systems don't have. Like I use Mac for the most part. I have a Windows desktop. I also have used Linux and Mac, and I still don't know how to do that with files very easily. But with a personal knowledge database, say you've got an important PDF, maybe it's an invoice or you paid your taxes and you need proof that you actually paid your taxes, whatever it is. Well, with a personal knowledge database, you can put that PDF into a file. And then in that file, you can talk about that invoice. You can say, it took me a long time, but I finally got this taken care of. I'm going to tag this with IRS. Um, Taxation is theft, liberty, like however you want to tag everything. Anything that you would tell your friend about or try to remember about it later, you can put in that file. Even if that PDF, you could say, this PDF tastes like blue. If you're a synesthete and your senses cross, cool. You can put that in the file in your database about the attachment that's connected to that file. And suddenly you can find files and references and ideas by the way that you would remember them, even if there's no direct connection to any of the information that's inside the file that you're trying to remember. And the reason this is valuable is imagine trying to bring up a memory with a friend of yours about a party that you had 6 months ago. You'll say, oh, yeah, it was somebody, they were wearing a red jacket and they had dark hair and they had these shoes and you're using visual markers, but that person remembers, oh, they went to college so in this place and they're from this place and they were friends with so and it's more referential that way. Well, you both have no clue that you're talking about the same person because you both remember them your own way. Imagine if that person were tagged with every single way that you both think about it, and suddenly you'd be able to cross-reference and find that same information. That's what I mean when I talk about organization. It's not neat and tidy. It's being able to find what you're looking for, the way that you would look for it, where you would expect it to be. And if you put everything in your database and then tag it however you would want to remember it later, the computer is there, ready to find that anytime that you ask it to bring it up to you. So that is a phenomenally powerful reason. That alone was enough to get me down the rabbit hole into this world of personal knowledge databases, but these other four are just as important. The second reason why you might want a personal knowledge database is enhanced learning and retention. Now, spaced repetition is the best way to remember anything, and that's why systems like Anki are fantastic, is that they will surface information at just the right time before your recall would be able to drop off and then you wouldn't be able to remember it. It shows you that information just before then so that you're spending the least amount of time practicing with the highest amount of recall possible. It is the most efficient system on the earth that we've ever found. And with your own personal knowledge database, you'll always have that information. So you can set yourself reminders. You can use something like Anki, and you'll always have that information on hand so that you can review it anytime that you want. And I use this all the time when I am writing a new show or a keynote presentation. I've got an entire library of things that I've been able to do. There's that old saying that the master has forgotten more than you'll ever know. Well, the master forgot stuff because, well, they used to be able to do this thing really well, but then they focused on something else. And then that skill set is gone because they may not be able to recall it or the ins and outs of how to do that thing. But if they could review it very quickly, then their skills be right back up to top notch very soon. But they don't know what they don't know. They're not aware of what they forgot. If they had their own personal knowledge database like I do, they'd be able to say, here's everything I've ever been able to do, and here's how every single one of those things work, and here are the situations where those things are most appropriate. In my world, is that at a cocktail party? Is that at a gala? Is this something that's great for 3,000 people in a live theater? Is this something that's great for the morning news and a lot of TV cameras around? What's the situation where these would be great? Because I'm not on TV all the time, but if I am going out to the news, well, let me brush up on these dozens of things that I know how to do, but may not be able to remember when I need them. So that's why it helps me learn and retain and to be able to keep my skills up in a way that if I were just relying on my brain, there's no way that I would be able to have such a large catalog and library of skills and abilities that I'm able to have only because of this personal knowledge database. And that leads me to detail number 3, which is it increases innovation and creativity. Because when you have all this stuff at your fingertips and you can navigate it very quickly, you start to recognize that this thing is connected to this thing. And if I take this third thing and then put them together, I might be able to put them in a different way that I've never seen before. And hey, look at that. I just created something. So the creativity isn't out of nowhere. You can get really far by taking two things that you know already exist and then putting them together in a new way. And when you catalog and keep track of everything you've ever known and everything that you've gotten in touch with and everything that you've seen, and you put it all into one place, you now have a lot of raw material to pull on when it's time to make something or create something or do something new. You've got an entire who knows how much of a catalog to draw from of raw materials to create something new. So if that's important to you, that is a phenomenal reason why you should get started today. Number 4 is it helps you make decisions, weirdly, because you can keep track of how you've felt about something and how you think something's going to go, the decisions you made about it, and then how it went. Because we human beings, like we've already talked about, are really bad at remembering how things went, how they turned out. We have a very helpful edit feature that helps us remember the past in as positive a way as we possibly can. We very helpfully forget all the bad stuff and the choices that didn't work out, and we focus on the things that did work out so that we feel, hey, it's all worked out all the time. But if you can keep track of how things really went, you'll have a much more accurate representation of how your previous decisions have played out so that you've got a better understanding of how you need to make decisions in the future. This is also really good if you just heard me say that and you go, no, Jonathan, I'm exactly the opposite way. Nothing works out. Everything is awful. Nothing has ever succeeded for me. Well, if you keep track of everything that you've done, good and bad, and make sure that you do it in the moment so that you've got an honest record of what really happened, well, then you could look at the last week, last month, last 6 months, and then you'll see that, wow, there really were a lot more good things that happened. I really do have more wins than I thought I did. And I can now see that I'm overly critical, that I've been beating myself up even when I've actually been able to do some really cool things over the past year, whatever that is. You need to have falsifiable and verifiable evidence one way or the other, and then that will help you make better choices moving forward from this point. And the last detail is personal and professional growth, because as you start to understand your decision making and you start keeping track of where you are and then where you wind up, you've got a much better context and appreciation for how far you've actually come. I've made another video about the paradox of the expert, where you discount what you know because you know it. Beforehand, it's the most valuable thing in the world. You'd spend $1,000 to find this out. You spent the $1,000, you learned it, and now it's something that you know. How important can it really be? And suddenly you're ignoring $1,000 piece of information that you could share with other people. So it's not just in a professional context that this will help you out. It's also in a personal way to help you work through how you feel, how you think about things, the challenges that you're facing, and to be able to recognize how far you've come. Even though you feel the same, you'll be able to read through your previous entries and then recognize that you're a completely different person than the person who wrote these entries just 2 months ago. And it is a bizarre feeling to be faced with stuff that you know you wrote, but feels completely foreign. Like you don't even know this person. Who got into my computer and put this in here, because I know for sure that wasn't me, but it really was you. And that kind of feeling, you'll never get it if you never keep track of it in the first place. So that's why having a personal knowledge database helps you keep track of all that stuff, and it helps you appreciate yourself in a way that nothing else can possibly do for you. So those are the 5 reasons why you would want to create a personal knowledge database, or a second brain, or an exocortex, or whatever you want to call it. It's an incredible tool that can really serve you well and to help you accomplish incredible things if you put it to use. And that leads us to the one huge drawback and reason why you may not want to start a personal knowledge database. And that big reason is the system works if you work with the system. It takes a lot of effort and energy to figure this stuff out. It is a really steep learning curve, and the pain to glory ratio is really far off to begin with. But if you only go the easy path, there's kind of an upper limit to what it can do for you. But at first, the hard path, you're going to have fewer results. But as you go forward, the skills are going to pay off, and then the benefits are astronomical compared to the easy path that never challenges you, but also never really pays off. So the reason why you wouldn't want to do this is it's not worth the time and effort to build a system that can help set you free with what's in your head. So if you want to be a content creator, if you want to be a writer, if you want to make videos, if you want to be anybody who makes something of any kind, I would strongly encourage you to spend the time and effort to learn how to use a personal knowledge database. That's why I've made an entire series of videos about how Obsidian works, and I'll be linking to that here in just a second or two. But if you've gotten this far, I'm impressed. Thank you so much for sticking with me. If you would, like the video, that lets me know that this is the kind of thing that you'd like to see more of, and it lets YouTube know that, hey, maybe other people would appreciate seeing this as well. And if you really want to commit, then I highly suggest that you subscribe to the channel for more videos about this business, personal development, personal transformation, and everything that entails, which is why my motto is, if you can change your mind, you can change your life. See you in the next video.